Hello. Today's practice is going to be a very quick, very effective midday movement break. Now, I know you guys love these shorter practices. Several of you have been asking me for more 10-minute movement breaks that you can do in the middle of the working day. So this is one of my favorite sequences to do if I have been sitting at a desk, writing, working with clients, just being behind a laptop for most of the morning when I want to stretch everything out. Now, because it's a midday movement break, I'm assuming that you are already reasonably warmed up in the sense that you have been moving around a little bit, you've been getting up to get a cup of tea, cup of coffee, maybe you've done a bit of exercise already. So I wouldn't recommend doing this straight out of bed if you've got cold muscles, because we're going to go straight into a low lunge. Now, you might like to have a wee blanket or something to pad your knees. And if you want to use this, you can just kind of lay this across the middle of the mat, bringing one knee onto that blanket and then stepping that right leg forward. And we're going to start by just finding our low lunge, maybe with fingertips down on the mat. You could use blocks here or some hardback books to prop your hands up, relaxing the neck, relaxing the shoulders, just taking a soft gaze in front of you. And we're just going to start really relaxing through that left hip and left quad. Feeling in a little bit to the body, taking some deeper breaths. And I'm actually just going to shuffle that right ankle back a little bit so that when I lunge forward, my knee is now going past my ankle. I'm going to get a little bit of a stretch there at the back of the ankle, back of the calf. I'm just pressing down with my heel into the mat. Just coming back into that low lunge, but slightly changing the sensation, pressing that heel down so you really get that stretch. Take one breath here, and then just shift the weight back onto that left knee and keep bringing that weight back until you can stretch your right leg in front of you, maybe wiggling the heel forward, toes pointing up towards the ceiling so that you're in your half splits. You can keep your fingertips down, or you can even just bring your hands to your hips if you like. This is a little bit more strength-based work here, drawing in your core a little bit to support a nice straight back. You'll feel a nice stretch along the hamstrings. And then we're just going to start turning the foot. So turning the foot to point outwards, and you'll feel a shift in the muscles, turning it back to center, and then rolling it inwards. Or just take those little sort of half moon rotations with the right foot. We're just gently rotating through the hip socket here. So a little bit of movement for the hips, a little bit of a deeper stretch for the hamstrings. And then let's just come forward back into low lunge for a minute. Just pause for a breath, relaxing the hips down, maybe feeling there's a bit more ease in the body this time. And then shift the weight back into that same half splits, but this time walking the fingertips over to the right. So my upper body's leaning to the right, but my leg is still facing forward. So now I'm getting an IT band stretch. Just a couple of breaths here. And then walking the hands back, come back into low lunge, and then we'll just step that right knee back onto the blanket, bringing your left foot forward, and find your low lunge on this side. So first of all, just a few breaths, relaxed gaze, relaxing that right hip, relaxing the shoulders and the belly. How has your morning been? What is your body telling you about what it might need? And then let's just wiggle that left foot back a little bit, just so that when you're lunging forward, the knee is now going past the ankle, really pressing that heel down so that you're getting that stretch into the back of the ankle, back of the calf. Couple of breaths here. Remembering to really press that heel down. And then we'll start to gently shift the weight back onto that right knee, wiggling that left foot forward. Toes up to the ceiling, and just find your version of half splits first of all. Maybe you're up here, maybe you're leaning forward a little bit, maybe you're down on your fingertips, whatever works for you. Breathing into that nice hamstring stretch, and then let's just start to turn that foot out, back to center, and turning the toes in, and taking those little half moon rotations through the hip joint. Just getting some yummy hip joint movement there. So we're not just focusing on the muscles, we're thinking about the joints as well. And then coming back to center, come back into that low lunge for a moment. Just see if you can let that right hip relax a little bit more. And then come back into your half splits, but this time stretching that foot in front of you, walking the fingertips over to the left side of the mat, toes still pointing up to the ceiling, stretching through that IT band. Nice few deep breaths here. And then walk back to the center. Last time in low lunge. And then just bring that left knee back behind the right. We're just going to sit back on our heels for a moment. Just bringing your left hand just slightly behind that left foot, bringing that right arm forward, up and over. And you can just stay here in this little side bend, stretching through the fingertips, or you could lift up through the quads, pushing your hips forward, even dropping the head back a little bit. Bring the hips back down onto the heels, palming across with both arms so the right hand is behind you, left hand up and over, maybe lifting through the quads as well. Let's just take that once more on each side. So nice side bend, full body stretch, activating a little bit. And then coming back to center, bring the big toes together, knees as wide apart as you would like, walking the hands forward, coming out into extended child's pose. So forehead coming down to the mat, resting the hips down towards the heels. I'm just taking a few breaths here. And then let's just walk the fingertips forward, lifting the elbows off the mat so you're up onto these like, I don't know, spider fingers. Stretching through the armpits, pressing the hips further down towards your heels. And then let's walk the fingertips over to the right, off the mat, maybe bringing the left hand over the right. Bring the forehead back down. Just a big side bend through the left side of the body. Big breaths. And then up on the fingertips, walking over to the other side of the mat. Maybe the right hand goes over the left. Forehead comes down. Few big breaths into the right side of the body. Walking the hands back to center. One more long stretch all the way from hips to fingertips. And then pressing back up, coming to all fours. Just take a couple rounds of cat-cow, dropping the belly, lifting the head, lifting the hips, gaze goes forward. Exhale, tucking the tailbone under, arching towards the ceiling, dropping chin to chest. Couple more rounds, moving with your own breath. Just articulating through the spine here. And then coming forward, just walk the hands towards the top corners of the mat. You're going to bring your forehead down to the mat whilst keeping your hips up towards the ceiling, and walk the hands towards one another until you can make a prayer position. Now, this might be enough for you, or you can start to bring those prayer hands behind the back of the head and feeling a nice stretch here through the upper arms, the shoulder, and the upper back. Just continuing to draw your belly button up towards the spine, hips pointing up towards the ceiling, legs are fairly relaxed, keeping the forehead heavy on the mat. Maybe the chin, maybe the chest drop a little bit closer to the mat with each breath. And to come out of this, just first of all, bring the hands down, release the prayer position, move a hand to either side of the head, pressing into the mat to come back up. Last pose, we're just going to tuck the toes, bringing the heels back towards the heels. You might need to move your little toes out the way. You might be able to come all the way up, sitting on your heels here. I find that a bit much, so I'm just going to keep my hands down on the mat and actually just push back a little bit, so I'm stretching through the soles of the feet. And you could rock forward and backwards, or you could just stay fairly still. One more breath here. And then coming forward, just release the toes, tap them out, calming down to a kneeling position. Maybe one hand rests inside the other, taking a few breaths. And just noticing how you feel now. Noticing the difference that's happened just for taking this short 10-minute practice in the middle of the day. I hope you enjoy these stretches, and I hope they help you to feel a little bit more energized and ready for the afternoon. Thanks for practicing with me today.